Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Growth Support Conversation. My name is Neal, and today I'm joined by Priscilla Brooke to talk about all company support and what that means to make sure that, we can find the best practice about way of getting people involved, which I think is awesome. Priscilla, do you want to introduce yourself and where you're coming from?
Sure. So my name is Priscilla Brooke. I am the head of podcaster success over at Buzzsprout. We're a podcast hosting company. And so we work with podcasters all day, every day, and help them launch their podcast and keep podcasting. And it's a really fun industry to be in. And so I'm lucky enough to work with our podcaster success team and really be in contact with our customers every day. And help them figure out technical questions and offer encouragement when they need a little motivation to keep podcasting. And it's been a really fun industry to be working in over the last 10 years as the podcasting industry has really just changed so much and grown so much. And so growing with this company and seeing that change and working with this team and growing the team over time has been really fun. And then I just love, I get to work with people every day and I love people. And so really when it comes down to like who I'm a person who loves working with people and helping people. And so it is like a match made in heaven to be in the support world. So thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of the trifecta of everything because you work with podcasters, you support podcasters, you have your own podcast, your own podcast.
That is true. That is true. I didn't plug my own podcast. I'm a pretty bad podcaster myself because I don't plug it that much, but I do also host a podcast about remarkable customer support called Happy to Help. So if you're interested in finding another great podcast about customer support, check it out.
And you had Matt on there from Help Scouts
just
recently as well.
Awesome. We just had an episode with Matt talking about help docs and how to build a knowledge base. And so there's a lot of really good actionable tips in that episode about how to get started and build your knowledge base. So if you're a new customer support person who doesn't have a knowledge base, it's a really great episode to listen to and get kicked off in that area.
Nice. But we are here to talk about all company support, getting people involved.
Yeah.
How would you define all company support? I'm curious because people think of this in very different ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I think of all company support, what I'm thinking about is people who are not in your support world or in your support team coming into the support team and directly interacting with customers. That's the basic thought, at least for me, when I think of it. So, it's the idea that your customer support team is so lucky because they have this direct access to your customers and people who are using your product or your service, and they get to talk with them directly every single day. Like I was saying, we get to work directly with our podcasters. It's really fun to work with people who are telling stories and are using your product to do that. And there is an aspect of this when you silo a customer support team, especially the people who are not in that team miss out on that valuable information. And so ideally any company that has customer support should not silo them off on the side. They should be part of the company as a whole. But a lot of times that's not the case. And so this is a cool way to make sure that anyone who's not working in support gets that direct access to your customers to benefit them and the work they're doing outside of the support team.
I love it. I mean, you're really just trying to get people connected to your customer in that sense and bring them closer together.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they can be quite some distance if you need to always be the very full translator, and it gives them a hands-on experience. I know that for me, when I've seen some people come in and they're like, oh yeah, hey, can you do this thing for me or something? I'm trying to help this customer. And then I'm like, yeah, you just want to just sit here and I'll do it, and we can work together, and you can see how it's done. Right. And then I do it, and they're like, I had no idea.
Yeah, it does.
Kind of aha moments.
You do have those, and it's a really cool thing as a support person or support professional to have someone who doesn't work into support come into your zone and to see the work you're doing and see the value that it's bringing that they might not know when they don't come in. I think it's Home Depot, which is a company here in the US that does, I think they have a all company support idea where everyone in the corporate world in Home Depot, I don't know what their cadence is, but they are required to do customer service work. They're required to go into the store and at least do some direct to customer helping. And that really gives them insight into what's happening in the stores, what's happening with actual customers, when you can feel very detached from that if you're working in a corporate office every day trying to come up with the marketing for something, but you don't sit there with your customers and actually see them face to face. So it's that kind of idea.
Yeah, I think you mentioned one of the biggest benefits there as well. Like if you're, for example, in SaaS, or you're working in a different type of organization as well, being able to go in and see actually what those customers are having problems with and what they're experiencing in real time and in the moment as well is also quite exciting to
Yeah.
be able to see. Like, oh, actually, there's a different way we could solve that. I know, for example, our VP of product as well. He just sent his team out to go do shadowing and join calls
Yeah.
and stuff. Go do the thing. Go see it.
Yeah.
Which I love. I'm curious. Like you mentioned a couple of benefits. We talked about customers, getting closer to them, really being able to understand it, getting people
Yeah.
involved, to see that kind of perspective. I know that there are also some semi-controversial sides to this as well, or some
Yeah.
polarizing opinions around. Oh, but then if anybody can step in and do your job, like, why is it that easy? I mean, I think that's a very harsh take, in my opinion.
Well,
But
it's
I'm curious to get your take.
yeah, it's interesting. I don't hear that often when I talk about all company support. But it is something that has come up. This idea that, oh, what you're saying is that anyone can come in and do the job that I'm doing, and that makes me feel less valuable. And I think that if that's your reaction to hearing all company support, then you probably should re-examine why you're feeling that way. Do you think that your work is easy enough that anyone can come in and do it? Because then you might need to raise your standards. And I don't want to say that in a way that's rude to anyone, absolutely, because that's not the case. But the work we're doing in support, it's not rocket science. We're not building rockets, right? But it is really important and really takes skill. You have to be skilled in certain ways in order to do that. You have to be able to talk to someone. So for us, we work in email support. And so everything is written. We don't have face-to-face support. We don't have phone support. That's really hard. It takes serious skill to be able to communicate with an angry customer in a written way and get them to understand the actual way you're trying to talk to them, right? The intention behind your words. It's really hard to do that in a written way. So if you work in support and you think that that's easy, it could be easy because you're really naturally good at it, but it's not going to be easy for everyone who comes in. And so I would just encourage you to say, like, look at the work you're doing and the value that it's actually bringing. If you feel like someone could come in and do your work as well as you're doing it with no training, then you may need to try to up your standard a little bit, or you need to get a better idea of the work you're actually doing and the value that it is bringing. I think sometimes, especially when I think of the early years that I was doing support, I had this idea that it was not a valuable job. It was not a valuable, it just wasn't valuable work, and it was necessary. And that's why I was doing it. And I was a warm body that could do the work. And that lasted about 2 months before I realized, oh, wait, this is not some easy, cushy job that anyone can do. This is actually, in order to do it well, you have to have these skills. And so I think that people in that customer support mindset might need to step out and say, hey, actually, I need to put more value on the work I'm doing, because it's actually not something that anyone can step into and do really well. It does take skill and a certain type of person to do it remarkably.
And day in and day out, it's just
Yeah.
one in that sense.
Yeah. And
I
so,
love what you say. Like that skill set is really important. Like being able to see the
yeah.
differences and the nuances as well. When you talk about you do all written communication. We're a
Mhm.
very similar way. We do chats and emails, so we have a
Yeah.
little bit of a structure around being able to actually relay what you're
Yeah.
feeling, and being able to bring in empathy into that is a little bit different than actually hearing somebody speak and being able to
Yep.
do it. But then phone support is a whole nother beast where you need to do
It
things
is.
live and in the moment and quickly, and you're
Yeah.
running around.
It takes a completely different skill in the same world, but it is still a very important skill. So when you're
Yeah.
talking about having people come in who are not working in support every day, there is an aspect of being okay with it not necessarily meeting the standards that you hold your team to. And the reason they're coming in is not because you need the help. It's not because you can't do the job you're doing. It's because it's a benefit to them and it's a benefit to your customers. And there can be benefit to your support team, but they're not coming in because you need help. And I think sometimes that can be how it's seen. It's like, oh, we're doing whole customer support or whole company support and bringing people in because the support team can't handle it on their own. And that is not at all the reason why you would do it.
Yeah, indeed. And like it's not just to get everybody on board. So I'm curious as well. Like,
Yeah.
now we're kind of going into some of the practicalities of getting people involved. What forms do you think all company support can take?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's interesting. I want to talk about a couple of the reasons why it's really good first,
Yeah,
if you don't
sure.
mind.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I think we touched on one, that you're getting this firsthand experience. Your customer support team is face to face, whether it be via email, chat, over the phone, or actually in person, but they're face to face with your customers. And so when you bring people outside of the customer support world into that space, you're giving people with different perspectives, aspects, or you're giving people with different perspective a direct connection with your customers. And so someone who develops the product will come in and they might have a completely different read on a situation than someone on your support team, that will allow them to either help them with specialized help, right? Because maybe someone's dealing with something really technical and a developer can come in and solve it in 2 minutes that a support person would take several hours to figure out. So you're getting this really kind of VIP treatment feel, but the developer who's coming in is also getting this really awesome experience with a customer that hopefully will allow them to go back to the work they do every day and make the product better, or develop a new feature or an update to make whatever pain points they're experiencing when they're in support, that are real, that we see all the time. They're going to see that face to face and be able to make those changes or updates. And it kind of gives them a higher respect for the support team and what we're dealing with. I think it also, sharpens the knowledge of everyone on your team about the product. So when you think about the people on your support team, those are the experts on your product, right? And your marketing team, they know the product, and the developers know the product. And in some cases, the developers will have these hyper specific knowledge because they built that aspect. But when it comes to knowing the edge cases and knowing the pain points and knowing what your customers are feeling, that is your support team. They know that. And so when you come in as someone who's not on the support team, you learn the product a lot better. When you're having to teach, there's studies that show that when you teach something, you learn it better yourself. You solidify that knowledge. And so your support team has been doing that. So bringing in people from the marketing team or from maybe it's your CEO coming in, it really teaches them more about the product and what it is, and allows them to take that back to their work and enhance the work that they're doing outside of support.
And the reverse is also true. Like, I've sat and I've shadowed, for example, some people who aren't necessarily my direct reports, but are doing the work. And I sit and I'm like, hey, can I just sit with you and go through it? You said that the workload is really high. Like, let's go through and see what, those problem cases are. Let's see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Just joining and sitting. And then they're going through their regular flow of doing their support work. I'm like, okay, but why are you doing it that way? It's like, why is it? You didn't say this was broken. I'm sorry. It should never have been this way. Let's fix it. Like, it can definitely be illuminating if those other types of feedback loops aren't closed, where you don't always get to see, like, but why aren't you using that feature we built? Like, it's different. Like, you can try to improve each other's lives and open the room for that conversation, which is great.
Well, that's another huge benefit, is the fact that in support, we're really good at coming up with workarounds. I think a lot of people who work in support are people pleasers. The people who really love it, that's part of their personality a lot of times, is they're people pleasers and they don't want to inconvenience someone. And so instead of inconveniencing someone outside of the team to fix something, they find a way to work around it. And then that becomes your process, is that I work around this. And if you bring a developer in, this happens so often at Buzzsprout support, but when someone outside of the support team comes in and sees, wait, why do you do it this way? And we go, oh, because that's the way we do it, because we can't do X, Y, and Z. So we have to work around it. And they go, okay, well, I can make this so you can do X, Y, and Z, or there's a more efficient way to do this. It is a benefit to your support team to see that, because we get so used to doing these workarounds. I have a memory of training a new support hire years ago, and my one of our developers was in the room while I was training her. He was just working on in the corner, but he was there. And I was explaining to her, like, hey, when you click this page, it's going to take like 5 minutes to load. So just let it load and go do whatever and then come back to it. He was like, hold on. That's part of your training, is to tell her to go and, come back to this page. We can change the page so that it loads faster. I didn't realize that page was taking so long to load. And I didn't realize that was something that we could change, And so I do think that there can be huge benefits in that way when you bring someone who's not used to being in that world in to see your processes, like you were saying.
Yeah, it's the awareness aspect is a huge benefit to it.
Yeah.
I know that, like, for me, some of the things that we've tried doing in the past when we ran it is, like, I opened up, you could book some time with a support person, and we call them pod sessions. You can come in and, hey, we have this booking page for all the support people. You can book an hour with them. And one of the things that we tried to do was co-shadow a little bit, where the first half an hour was their shadowing support, working on a case. They'll walk you through it. It'll be more educational, more talking through things. And then the second half an hour would be the shadowing the other way around, so that they would shadow what that person does. And then it kind of opens up this, knowledge sharing opportunity where people can kind of book sessions and just kind of jump in and join things and set it up. That's one of the forms that we've taken. I know that, for example, like Kenji, and what they do at front is they set up a big kind of table and get everybody to come and do it and have like a supported hour a little bit. Have you tried any? I mean, you mentioned that you do all companies.
Yeah, we do. So in the early years that I was doing support for Buzzsprout, when it was just me or just two of us on the support team, we would do whole days. So we would have everyone pick a day once every 6 or 8 weeks, and they would come in the support team and they would be on the support team for the whole day. And it was nice when I had a really small team, when there were just one or two of us, because it allowed me to have a little bit of a break when they would come in and like have a little bit of a support there. And so I could I could plan it strategically to have a meeting or to step out of the support inbox or work on a project or something like that. What we found, though, with doing full days is it's a huge commitment. It's a really big thing to ask for people to build a full day into their schedule to come in and be in support. And then you kind of look at what your people are giving versus the actual benefit they're getting. And so we stopped doing the full days and we moved into what we do now, which is 4 hours. So usually it's like 3 to 4 hour shifts is kind of where we stand. And we're not so tied down on the amount of time. So if someone's like, hey, I don't have 4 hours this quarter to do it, but I want to do like a 2-hour shift, then we'll make that work, because the number of hours you're in there is not as important as the coming in and being there consistently. So right now, the way we do it is we have like 3 to 4 hour shifts. And then we try to do it 2 to 3 times a year. And so it kind of depends on the team, right? Like, you might have someone on your infrastructure team who really doesn't need to be in the inbox more than 2 times a year, whereas someone in marketing might want to be in there 3 to 4 times a year. And so we're pretty flexible with that. We do kind of open up windows and say, hey, we're doing a all company support window for the next 2 months. So here's your options as far as scheduling it out. So go ahead and pick your time, and then we'll open the window again, 2 months later or something like that, so that people know when it's happening. And we kind of encourage people to pick at least 2, but between 2 and 4 shifts a year, and we call them support shifts. And so that way it's like, hey, this is your shift in support, and you're here to work with customers and be part of the support team. We treat you like you're part of the support team. So we add you to all of our support chats, and we include you in all of those conversations. And then for those 3 or 4 hours, you are on the support team, and then you get that valuable information, and then you step away. I have heard of people doing like 1-hour shifts. And I think if you work in a company where it's really hard to get buy-in for someone to take a half a day to work in support, then 1 hour is a great option. Say, hey, I'm asking for 1 hour out of every 2 months for you to come into support. That's a totally reasonable ask.
I mean, I was gonna ask you, how do you like? It sounds like you guys say, "Hey, we have open bookings. You can schedule it anytime between these few months." That's great. What happens? How do you encourage people to go and schedule
How do
that
you
time
actually,
and get
yeah,
involved? Because like when I did pod sessions, it was great because like at the beginning it was like, "Hey, you can do this thing. It's wonderful," but then very quickly it got put a bit on
yeah,
the people stop booking sessions and then it gets quieter,
yeah,
quiet. How do you encourage people to get involved without
yeah.
making it required?
Well, so it's interesting. I think for us, it works well because we work in cycles. So we basically work in 6 week cycles with a 2 week kind of cool down in the middle. So everyone who's not on the support team works in that rhythm. The support team also works in that rhythm, but obviously support doesn't. We don't not do support for 2 weeks, right? So it's kind of this cycle rhythm. And so it works well for us because we can say, hey, this cycle, we're doing support shifts. So by the end of the cycle, you need to have scheduled and completed your support shift, whether that's a 2 hour shift or a 4 hour shift. That is up to you, but that is part of your expectations for this cycle. But in order to get there where everyone sees that and doesn't go, oh my gosh, I have to do a support shift, like coming at it with that mentality, you have to get buy-in from the leadership. You have to get, like, if this is not something that's sewn into the fabric of the work you're doing as a company, then you have to go and figure out how you're going to get that buy-in and how you're going to sew it into the fabric, because otherwise it's not going to be the benefit that you want it to be. So I would say, go to the people who make the decisions, get a meeting on the calendar. And I would say, if you're feeling this pushback and they're like, I don't see how that's going to be valuable to our product, I don't see how that's going to be worth the time, I would say, hey, you come do one shift, CEO or whoever it is. I want you to come in and do one shift, and you will see the value. Once you're in there and you start to see what's happening with customers, you'll understand the value. And that will help you so much as a support leader to then get that why are we doing this communicated to your whole team. And then the whole team will see, oh, this makes sense. This is why we're doing it. We're not doing it because the support team needs help. We're not doing it because it's this thing that we do and no one understands what the reasoning is. We're doing it because it's going to make us better. It's going to improve the work we're doing. Like, as a developer, going and spending 2 hours in support every 8 weeks is going to make the work I do developing the product better. And that, when you really look at it from that perspective, you hope that the people on your team want to be better. And so that's why they're excited to do this. And it's not this idea of, oh man, well, now I got to go do that support thing because the support team needs me to come in and fix all their problems. Because that's not what it is.
In fact, it's quite the opposite.
It's quite the opposite.
And you mentioned that when you have people join your team and do these sessions, obviously they're a part of the team, you treat
Yeah.
them as the team, you involve them, but you don't necessarily, you understand and don't hold them to the same standard level of quality in that
Right.
sense. But
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, how do you maintain that standard with customers and the end user themselves, who are seeing this difference in level of quality of what to expect?
Well, so we do some small training, some minimal training when we have someone come into the support team for the first time. And then we'll do it, every little while after that too, so that people stay on top of kind of what our tone is and what our goals are when we're working with customers. And I think when you really lay that groundwork before you jump into the inbox, then that helps the standard stay high. I also think that, I don't make someone who is in marketing answer the most technical questions. It's not like you get assigned certain emails. As the person coming into the support inbox, you get to go through the emails and pick which ones speak to you and your specialties and your understanding. And that way your level of service is still pretty high because you have a developer helping with a technical question. You have a marketer, maybe someone on the marketing team coming in and helping with how to promote your podcast in our case, because we work with podcasters. But it allows you to really stay in that niche where that can keep your experience from dipping for your customers, because if you had someone who didn't know the answer to a question, well, obviously you don't want them to answer that question. And so I think, we do the training
Cherry picking is fun.
beforehand. Yes, cherry picking is encouraged. And we have a buddy system. So whenever you come into the support inbox, we kind of give you a buddy and say, hey, if you have any questions or if you're not sure about something, this is the person to go to. They can, their main priority while you're in the inbox is you. And so they're there for you. And then they're helping customers on the side, but really they're there for you if you need them. And then they can also review emails. If someone is in the inbox and they're like, man, I'm not good at email communication and I'm a little bit worried about being in here and working directly with customers because I'm a developer and I'm good at, numbers and code. I'm not good at writing with empathy. And so they have the safety net of that email review. Now, some people are going to come in and they're going to knock it out of the park because they're super extroverted and they know how to do that in addition to whatever work they're doing outside of support.
I did support before.
Yeah, exactly. And so like our, one of our partners at Buzzsprout, he is so good at support. He loves coming into the support world and helping people. But he still will have people read his emails sometimes. And he's like, hey, can you make sure the tone here is right? Can you make sure that I'm saying this in the way that I need to? And so knowing you have that safety net helps keep your standards where you want them to be as a support team.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you really obviously want the support system and to give them the cradle and everything that they need to be successful. Yeah. You don't want to be like, okay, good luck. We're out of here.
We're out of here. Yeah.
Have you ever had an incident while somebody was on a rotation or shift?
An incident internally or with a customer?
Like a critical incident, like an outage.
An outage. No, we've had times where there has been an outage or some kind of critical incident, and then people have come in to help the support team in those cases, right? When, we had a DDoS attack years ago. And when that happened, we had our support team, we had someone who was on PTO, and so they were not able to help. And so we did pull in a developer. And because they had done all hands support before, they knew how to work with our support team and were able to be a huge help to us. But typically, if there's someone in the inbox with us who's doing a all hands style shift and then something goes wrong, we wouldn't have them work directly with those customers unless that was their specialty, right? Unless it was a situation where they're like, hey, actually, I can be a huge benefit here because this is the thing that I'm really good at or the thing that I do outside of the support world. But no major incidents. It's been a really good rhythm, and we haven't really run into any huge issues either with, the product going down or someone on the team not feeling great about the connection. Like we haven't had those interpersonal things, or customers feeling really upset about the service they're getting. We haven't run into any of that, which is really lucky. And now it probably will happen next time someone does a support shift. But
oh no, knock on wood. No. No, but I think you mentioned a really good and important benefit as well, right? Like by doing this and creating this rhythm of getting people involved and having these mini micro trainings and these things that get people prepared to do it, when you do have something that is crazy and you need extra hands and you need extra help, people are more prepared or even willing to jump in and help and say, hey, definitely I can lend an extra hand, and are capable to do it in that moment as well, rather than just, hey, okay, now I also need to deal with this crazy thing and I also need to train you and try and get you on board. Sometimes then it's just easier to say, nope, don't need your help. I can just do it if people don't have that capability. Yeah. But because you do have this rhythm and training, it's easier to accept help when you need it.
Well, and it's like one of those fringe benefits too, because, you have in a situation where you need someone to come in and help, you've got people who are ready, reinforcements that are ready. But you also think about, especially now with so many companies being remote and so many people working off site. And so you have these, on like these meetings, these team meetings where everyone comes together and the goal is to be together as a team. Well, what does the support team do in that situation? They sit over in a room by themselves and they continue to clear the support queue, and they don't get to spend time with the rest of the team because that's what the support team does, right? And so we have found that having everyone on this regular cadence coming into support and doing support allows us to then bring that in strategically when we're all at a meetup as a company and say, hey, we're going to do, for us, we did like 15-minute, power shifts. We would do one at the beginning of the day. And when you get 20 people in our inbox, obviously it's different per, your traffic is all different. But for us, put 20 people in the inbox for 15 minutes and we can clear it. And then everyone is able to focus on whatever the activity is that we're doing as a team. And it values your support team saying, hey, we're willing to jump in and do your work with you so that you can be present with us as a team. And it would be much harder to do those kind of things if you didn't have this cadence of all hands support. And so, yeah, that's a huge fringe benefit that we get to kind of benefit from because we have this system set up that really encourages people to know how to work and support.
Nice. I love it. And I have one last question for you, not
Yeah.
all company hands supports related.
Okay. Okay.
If there's one thing that you've learned over the course of your career, just professional working, is there something that you hold to today?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This might not feel very groundbreaking, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. When I originally, when I started working after college, I went into advertising and I worked in advertising for several years. And while I was working in advertising, there was a day where there was a mistake. Someone did something wrong and it negatively impacted a client. And it was a pretty stressful moment in this company. It wasn't in my team. It was in a different department, but from the outside looking in, I could kind of see what was going on. And it was stressful. And in that moment, I had to remind myself that there's more than just what's happening in this building, right? There's bigger things than this one pretty small mistake on the grand scheme of things, but that mistake felt so intense. And so I think that's something I've carried through my career and into support, that you have to have this perspective of, hey, not everything is as urgent as it feels in the moment. And when you're working in support, you're working with people who are coming to you because they have a problem. And so for a lot of people, there's a high level of urgency there. And if you as a support professional are taking their level of urgency and letting it dictate your level of urgency, you're going to burn out so fast because you cannot handle everything with that level, ticket after ticket after ticket after ticket. So you have to find a way to take the seriousness of the situation, right? And you want to help them in a really high quality way, but you can't hold on to that. And you can't let that dictate how you're going to do your work. So I think of when you're on an airplane and they say, put your oxygen mask on before you help a child. You have to be able to work from a place of calm. And so in order to do that, you have to put your oxygen mask on. If you didn't do that, you would not be working from a place of calm to solve their problem. And so I think that's something that I think about a lot, is this idea that you have to put everything into perspective when you're working in support. For us, it's podcasting. Someone said to me the other day along these lines that when he was working in the service industry, like a deli, that it's just sandwiches. It's not that big of a thing. And of course you want to handle it with care, but you also want to keep that perspective as a support professional, or else you're going to get so burned out. And so one thing that I do and really try to do every day is I like to work near a window. If I'm working in a room with no windows, it's hard for me to keep that bigger perspective. But when I'm working near a window, I can look outside and go, hey, I'm really stressed out right now, but outside, this is not a thing that people are stressed about. I need to step back and look at this and figure out how I'm going to solve this problem from a place of calm and not from a place of stress. And I think that's something that's really helped me as I've worked with support, because it can really easily become very stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. at the end of the day. Depends on what you really focus on in that sense and really put into perspective. I think it
Yeah.
comes down to really understanding that I am gonna take the phrase "it's just sandwiches" with me for a long
Well,
time.
well, then I have to credit it. I have to credit it to Chase Clemens at 37 Signals. He was the one who said it to me a couple weeks ago. But it is such a good, I mean, you could apply it to anyone who's working in support. It's just sandwiches. Now, that doesn't mean sandwiches aren't important, but it is just sandwiches. And so no one needs to be screaming and yelling at each other. And so often you see with customer service or customer support experiences that it's like, oh, this person lost their mind and started yelling at this person because what, a sandwich, and so you have to.
And in food service, I've been there.
Yeah, it's just sandwiches. It's just sandwiches. I love it.
I love it. So we covered a lot of really cool things. I think one, like kind of being able to set up all company support, like getting people involved and really the benefits of it. Like you deepen understandings between support teams and product. The product people can really see what the issues and things are going on. Marketing can learn things. Everyone can learn something from actually being involved there.
Yep.
You were kind enough to share your cadence, what you do at Buzzsprout, and really talk about how it works and the rhythm. I love the rhythmic cadence that you have and be able to go through those things. If people want to continue that conversation, want to find out a little bit more about what you're doing and how it works, is there a place that they can best reach you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Priscilla Brooke. You can find me there and send me a message. You can also check out Happy to Help. We talk a lot on Happy to Help about how we do support at Buzzsprout. So if you find Happy to Help on any of the podcasting platforms that you get your podcasts from, there is contact information in those episode descriptions. So you can always reach out to us that way and send a text message straight to me through that link in our episode descriptions. But so check out Happy to Help and find me on LinkedIn. Those are the best ways. And then of course, if you want to learn more about Buzzsprout, you can go to buzzsprout.com and learn all about podcast hosting and how to launch and keep podcasting. But thanks for having me. This is really fun.
Well, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it and sharing your experience. Thank you so much.